I am currently going down a driveway of a beautiful farm where I'm staying with a friend of mine, actually, who used to live in China as well.
Nice.
Yeah, the car is freezing. It is freezing cold here. It is 27 degrees Fahrenheit, which is probably about -3 Celsius or somewhere around there. Lots of wind.
That's freezing.
Absolutely freezing. And it's early morning. How about you? What's it like over there?
I was gonna say that, it's pretty cold here, but it's totally not compared to what you just said. And especially because I have been push starting my bike this entire time. I actually worked up quite the sweat. But it's like 10 or 12 degrees or something here. But either way, I'm pretty freaking hot right now. Anyway, I'm ready to talk about a interesting topic that I think a lot of people would be interested in hearing about. And we're always talking about differences between China and America. Obviously, China and America and China and the West have vast differences, but I had this crazy idea that we talk about some things that are actually quite similar between America and China. And I think there's quite a few things that they actually share.
Okay, cool. Well,
I chose America because you're there right now, obviously.
I'll tell you one thing that China and America share in common, and that is the sheer size. The size and the difference in geography as you drive from place to place, because it's so vast. As I drive through America, right now, I mean, it's really cold here, but I mean, these sort of beautiful farmland areas, and they're, sort of pine trees and various other trees, and it's fairly flat, and there's water nearby. It's very beautiful here. That's all I can say.
Sounds really nice.
Yeah, I've been through deserts, I've been through, mountains with snow on them, I've been through, you name it, I've been through it,
Yeah, it's they're both massive countries. How would you kind of link that up with the geographical diversity that you've seen, within China? Because, you're talking about four geographical zones there. You got desert, like you said, mountains and all that kind of stuff. How would you compare that to China?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. In China, you also get your desert areas, you get your lush forests, your tropical areas. So there are a lot of similarities when it comes to the geography, but of course, they are both very unique. You will see things here in America that you just won't see in China, and vice versa. So yeah, I'd say they're similar in size and diversity, but the actual diversity itself is not the same, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely it does, for sure. Absolutely. Obviously, you're going to see things in China are not going to be the same things you see in America, but I was going to say, because we have a lot of European subscribers and stuff, if they've never been outside of Europe or their small country, a lot of times my European friends will go to America and they're just kind of blown away by how big and vast and how diverse the landscapes and stuff are, and I think the same holds true for China.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, what's the next thing that's similar, Simon? Go ahead.
Actually, the next thing I wanted to talk about was kind of break down the way people are, the way people act. Obviously, it's going to be a huge generalization.
Okay.
But you hear the old adage, it's this cliche adage that, humans are humans, people are people, everywhere around the world it's the same. People are kind of good by nature, that kind of thing. But I deeply disagree with that on a lot of levels. But at the same time, I do think that something that, China and America shares is kind of the hospitality, the kind of blind politeness and niceness to strangers, and the kind of warmth that a stranger feels in China and America. And I think particularly you as a foreigner in America is probably experiencing this as well. But we've been everywhere around China, and we know how nice people can offer you a meal. They can invite you into their house. It's pretty amazing stuff, and I kind of feel like America has this kind of blind politeness and hospitality towards strangers as well, for the most part. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I know it has something to do with the fact that I am foreign and I have a different accent over here, which is probably the biggest reason people are hospitable to us in China, is because we're different, we're foreigners. But just in general, people are incredibly friendly here. I mean, I've been staying with subscribers and patrons, which, they're not strangers. They are kind of strangers because the first time I've ever met them, but they know me through my videos, so we already have a lot in common. But just the way people have, basically like, hey, make yourself at home, help yourself to anything in the fridge, like this house is your house basically, and everyone's been like that. Everyone's really bent over backwards to make sure that I felt at home and that I'm accommodated. And I just pick up that vibe from people everywhere here. If people see you're standing in the shop and you're not like trying to make a decision and you don't know what you want to buy, they'll kind of chirp up and say, hey, that one's really good. I like that one. I think it's awesome. That kind of thing. People are kind of just friendly. And yeah, I suppose that is a similarity between Chinese people and American people. Absolutely.
I'd like to kind of clarify. I guess I should have said I'm talking about, foreigners here in China get, a really good treatment. I'm not sure about the average Chinese person if they're lost or something, but it's countless times we've been lost or needed something and people were so helpful to us here in China, and I think it has something to do with the fact that we're foreigners. And I feel like you're probably getting the similar treatment because you're a foreigner as well, and in America I think people are kind of, want to leave a good impression, and people just are kind of nice to people that are traveling through,
Yeah, absolutely right. So what's the next thing we could talk about?
But I wanted to talk about the way people act, and I kind of wanted to touch on nationalism. I want to touch on this. I know it's a bit sensitive, but I think that, I hold the belief, and it's a bit hypocritical for me to talk about my own nation, so I'll ask you to talk about it. But I think that both America and China are very patriotic and nationalist countries, and I think that you can really see that in both nations. But I wanted to ask you from an outsider's perspective, a foreigner's perspective in America, have you seen or experienced any nationalism or patriotism in America?
Well, I'm actually going to say to you that no, I haven't seen, I mean, it sounds silly, but I haven't seen like a huge amount of nationalism. What I've seen though is there are certain states that I've gone through, like Virginia for instance. When you drive into the state, you'll see a lot of political signs up, Trump or whatever, something like that. And you'll see a lot of I take it back, people are nationalist here, but it's very different to what I see in China. Here people, they are proud of being American, and you'll see like a lot of people have the American flag hanging off their house, for instance, like on their front porch.
Yeah.
And they'll also have, maybe American flag on their car. You'll see trucks with, the American Eagle and all that, like I'm just driving past a house now which has a big American star on it for whatever reason.
American star.
But yeah, you do see people's homes very often have an American flag hanging outside, which, that's kind of interesting. And I suppose that is different because in China you don't see that. I mean, you see Chinese flags everywhere, but you don't see them hanging them on their house. Well, I guess they don't have a house to hang it on, so.
No, I think they would. I think they would hang it on a house if they had one. But you see it on their cars, you see like nationalist stuff all the time, it's on TV. It's just everywhere here in China. I think people are super, super, happy and proud of their country, and I think that's a really, a value that both countries share. I think that really ties into the fact that Chinese people, and correct me if I'm wrong, and American people think that their country is like the city on the hill. It's the most important nation in the world, and you can see it in the name of China, 中国, Middle Kingdom, right? I feel like Chinese people and American people both kind of are a little bit ignorant to the outside world because their countries are so massive. China has such a long history. America's been, politically powerful and, a cultural exporter for its entire kind of, existence. So I feel like both nations are in this position where the people, like a lot of people, are just very ignorant to the outside world. It doesn't mean that they hate other countries. It doesn't mean that they are, it doesn't mean that they think themselves as superior, but it does mean that I think that a lot of people do not. I think a lot of people are under the impression that Americans and Chinese people think that their country is the most important.
I can agree to a certain point. Yes, of course, the majority of Americans do believe that America is a great country, but they are very, very quick to point out its flaws. You know, that's what this whole "Make America Great Again" thing is all about. It's because they believe America isn't great anymore. You know, so they're working. They're acknowledging its flaws, and they're working basically to try to improve it.
Yeah, Make America Great, that was obviously a political campaign that's trying to improve America under the pretense that it's a fault. And I think you're right. I think you wouldn't see a political campaign in China that says, like, "Make China great again," because we're sucking pretty bad right now. But that's down to a one-party state. So.
And another thing that's very obvious is America's used to having diverse peoples. So, you know, you've got, you name it here. You've got Indian Americans, you've got Chinese Americans, you've got Black African Americans, you've got every kind of Americans all kind of working together. So they tend to be more sensitive to other people's sensibilities, you know, other people's kind of backgrounds to a certain degree. Of course, you'll get depends on the state, you will get a kind of a more of a right-wing sort of feel from some of these places, very conservative. But in general, even the conservative people still acknowledge the fact that, you know, other countries or other peoples can be a part of America and can work together, etc. Whereas in China, you get a very, very distinct feeling that, you know, it's China or nothing. If you're not Chinese, you'll never be Chinese, and, you know, basically you can feel that divide. Whereas in America, even though I'm a foreigner here, I feel as if I'm part of the community. Obviously, I can blend in with my skin color, I can blend in and all that, but just in general, even when I'm talking to people and they know I'm a foreigner, they still treat me in the conversation as if I'm an American, which is very cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that, you know, this is kind of a negative aspect, but like both countries are kind of in this situation, I think, where especially the undereducated people are pretty ignorant to the rest of the world. And just because, you know, an American will be polite to your face, they probably don't know much about your country or where you're from and your values and things like that. So I don't know, I feel like a lot of my friends have never been abroad, right? And they have this kind of idea that they can travel within their own country because America is so big. So why would they need to go elsewhere? And I feel like Chinese people share that exact same value. Look at language, for example. You only need to speak English in America, right? Even though there's no real official language. It's the same with Chinese. Like, you know, let's kind of push away the minority languages, things like Cantonese, let's kill it off, and people speak Mandarin. It's kind of like the same approach of this, you know.
Oh, I think you're totally right on the language thing, and not traveling outside. It's absolutely true. I wanted to say that something that has really impressed me, Sea Milk, while I've been here in America is the attitude that people have towards the military.
Yeah, military. Yeah. Good topic.
And I feel as if people have a lot of reverence for veterans and for people that have served in the military here. People are very respectful towards that. I mean, I know it wasn't always like that, especially after Vietnam. People were very sort of crappy towards the veterans, but it's changed. And I have seen nothing but respect this entire time that I've been here. They've got memorials. I was in DC and I saw some of the memorials there. They've got memorials for World War II and Vietnam and all that stuff. But I'm going to give you an example. So I went to the car wash in my Corvette, and I went with my friend. My friend is a veteran. He's he's an older gent, and the assistant asked, are either of you guys veterans? And of course I'm not a veteran, but he said, yeah, I'm a veteran. And the assistant said, well, I'd like to thank you for your service to our country, sir. Gave him a salute and said, you get a free full service car wash. And I was like, that's pretty
awesome.
That's pretty amazing. And everywhere I've gone, there's a fox just ran over the road.
Whoa.
Oh, that's really cool. That's cute.
Go hit it.
That's something you don't see in China. You don't see wildlife out on the roads or on the streets, I'll tell you that much. They're all in someone's pot. Anyway, yeah.
Well, you sure do at barbecue, bro.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I've seen that a lot, and I was staying with a family where one of the family members had died in the line of service, and they had all the pictures on the wall, and they had like pictures of themselves with like the mother and the children with Obama. Actually met with them, to give his condolences and all the thank you for your husband's service type thing. And everywhere we went in that small town, everybody knew her and knew about her husband and all that. So there's a lot of respect towards the military here. So what would you say about China and obsession with the military?
I think that there's two ways to look at it. One thing is that the lower level PLA soldiers, the People's Liberation Army, they don't get paid a lot, so they have to do odd jobs. And menial labor here, or how to say, like working with your hands, is never something that's respected in China. It's kind of looked down upon. But when you take that away and you look at actual proper soldiers that aren't 18-year-old boys that are working part-time as farmhands, I think that you'll notice that Chinese people really worship the military. It's definitely a thing. I mean, if you turn on the TV, and 70 or 80% of the shows are like military dramas. They're getting less popular these days, but people really, really care about that. Military parades, you'll see it. It's kind of a Soviet Union style worship of their military technology, parading it through the streets, and with the leader sticking out of the car and everything. It's real. Yeah, it's really like celebrated here. That's for sure. And I feel like when I met my wife's family, like, when they kind of told me the story of their family, one of the first things they mentioned, they're really proud of, was the fact that her grandmother and grandfather met in the PLA as like military truck drivers, and I thought that was interesting because like they were very, very proud of that. And I noticed that a lot of my Chinese friends will, be very quick to mention that they had some family member in the military. So yeah, I mean, the way that in universities they give them military training and teach them how to do this and that, march and all that kind of stuff. That's all part of the culture here, part of the education. And yeah, I think China's definitely a very military friendly, or a military. They're fans of the military. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, it's definitely a big part of society there. Because especially with this feeling that they want to feel, well, they do feel that China is incredibly strong and, the strongest nation or whatever. And so they constantly have those sort of military parades and, you see military imagery everywhere, actually. Now you mention it, you get those big signs with sort of military guys with their guns and all that. And, yeah, you see that all over the place. And I guess that's just to try and give a feeling of strength to the average Joe on the street, you know what I mean?
I think that's about it, dude. I'm about to park outside this little convenience shop because I'm freezing my hands off, and I can buy some stuff here. Is there anything that you want to add?
Yeah, there's one thing I do want to add, and I don't want to sound like I'm responding to haters, but I think a lot of our last video about drugs was taken out of context. Well, in a way, there's a lot of people that are like, how can you be so insensitive, blah, 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 all that stuff. I gotta say why, very quickly, is I had a friend when I was in my late teens who, I lost my friend to drugs, and he totally screwed his life up, and he destroyed, due to his addiction, stole from his friends and his family and destroyed all his relationships and destroyed everything before destroying himself. And that's why, a lot of people were saying, how can you say this? You got no compassion. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what addiction's all about. The fact is, I've got a strong opinion on it because I do know what it's all about. And I did give all my compassion. I tried to help the guy out. I let him stay in my place. He stole stuff from me, that kind of thing. I tried my best to help him. And he basically just destroyed himself and everyone else around him. And eventually, did himself in on drugs. So to all those haters out there, take a hike. I know what I'm talking about. And yes, I have a staunch stance on it, but there's a reason. So, sorry, I know it's unrelated, but I had to put that in there.
It's fine. No, I do think that was a very misunderstood video, so.
Okay. Well, I mean, what would you like to tell everybody to do or say? Anything you'd like to tell them?
Being the nationalist proud American that I am, as the eagle soars above me, I have to ask you, no matter where you're from, whether it be China or America or any of those tiny little insignificant countries, being sarcastic, by the way, I'm a non-nationalist, okay? But anyway, I hope that you guys remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to share the video as well.
Okay, and whether or not you believe your country is better than anyone else, or whether or not you're a rational human being who just believes that we should all be working together and, you know, to get along, remember the famous quote that says, nationalism is the last refuge of the scoundrel. I hope all of you guys out there... Yeah. Well, I hope whoever you are, wherever you are, you know the drill. As always, stay awesome.
When I close my eyes, I can almost see it. When I take a breath, you fill up my lungs. And if my mind